Okay, so we're going to start this last video lecture, this last portion here with this video about the most taxed states. So I guess the whole purpose of that was just to show, we're talking about taxes and income taxes and stuff, and in here in Nebraska, we are the second most taxed state in the United States. And I guess I'm not going to go into it in any more detail, just simply because we need to get going. So some other things that Woodrow Wilson did. He created and I went and goofed here. There we go. He created the Federal Reserve Act. What this did was it created Federal Reserve banks. The purpose of a Federal Reserve Bank is you have one main Federal Reserve Bank in 12 different districts. So there's 12 Federal Reserve banks. Every bank within that district, they have to keep a certain amount of money in the Federal Reserve Bank. So here in Pierce, for example, we have two local banks. Our Federal Reserve Bank is in Kansas City. The two banks here in Pierce have to keep a certain amount of money in that Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City. It's almost like a safety net for banks, so that if all of a sudden a bank realizes that, you know what, we have all these loans out there and hard times have hit and people cannot pay back their loans, and the bank has more money that it needs to be receiving from people than what it actually has, that's how banks actually go broke. And so if that were to happen, hopefully those banks have enough money in the Federal Reserve that they can access that money, and it will help them out to keep a bank from going bankrupt, as oxymoronish as that sounds. The Federal Reserve, another one of their jobs is they determine what the interest rates are on loans. In economic hard times, they will lower the interest rates in hopes that people will take out loans to do things like buy cars or buy homes. When we are going through good economic times, they will start to raise them. The whole reason for doing this is, if you lower the interest rates, that's hopefully going to increase spending. It's going to, if you raise interest rates, that's going to slow it down. But when interest rates are lowered and raised, they're done so by very small amounts. It literally might be like 0.1%. Interest rates might go from 5% to 4.75, or from 4.75 to 4.6. But the thing is that each time that interest rate goes down, someone might say, at 4.75, we could not afford to buy a house or something like that, but at 4.6 we can. And I know that seems very minute, but for some people, when you're talking loans that are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, that 4.75 to 4.6 might be enough of a difference, especially when a loan is maybe 30 years long. Now all of a sudden they can afford it. Just looking at some of the other things that Woodrow Wilson did, the Clayton Antitrust Act basically said that if a business is going to charge a price for whatever good or service they are selling, they have to charge that same price for everyone. You can't show preferential treatment to customers. The Federal Farm Loan Act, that's pretty self-explanatory, gave long-term loans at a lower rate. Farming is an industry that is so up and down that you could have a really good year and then that might be followed up by 2 or 3 bad years. And so by those interest rates being lower, it means that monthly payment is going to be lower and it's going to make it more affordable for farmers. And so Woodrow Wilson, even though he's a Democrat, he's still a progressive. See, back during this time, presidents, regardless of what political party they were with, did what was best for the American people. Because you're thinking, well, but you have Taft and Roosevelt who were Republicans, and you have Wilson who's a Democrat, and yet they're doing almost the same thing in terms of, progressivism. That's what it was like back during this time period. It wasn't all about what's best for the political party. It was about what's best for the American people. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to those days. Unfortunately, I highly doubt it. But back during this time, that's exactly what they did. So to try to summarize the progressive movement a little bit here, the progressive movement, it said the government should step in to help the economy, and it did. Government should help regulate social issues, which it did. Looking at the muckrakers, they were all about exposing social issues. And even though it was successful on a state and national level, it didn't do much good at a local level. That's going to be up to local government to do that. And local government just isn't going to have the authority to do a lot right now, but that will continue to change. So this wraps up your chapter 13, section 3 and 4, video lecture part 3.